anyone who is joining us now. My name is Susie. This is Christopher LeMark of Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health from
Yes,
across the world.
yes.
Uh,
Chicago.
Say again?
I am in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing good work in Chicago. So I think I was like troving through your website earlier on and through your social media and everything else like that. And guys have been doing a lot of work the last while.
Yeah. It's been a
Yeah.
lot of work since June.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been amazing though. And we spent the entire summer just helping out, right? Obviously, we all know, we all feel it. What happened with the unfortunate spread of COVID?
Mm.
Everyone had to pivot, and for us, we start to deal with food insecurity and food deserts here in Chicago, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so this is something that I'm really, really excited about. Just continue with like to push the envelope for and just giving at the highest level as it relates to the south side, west, north, and east side of the city. So we're starting to get some things moving.
Yeah. So obviously, I think for some people, if they don't know what coffee, hip hop, and mental health is, you're the founder.
Yeah.
You started it in July last year.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I was like June, July, in
Yes.
July.
Yeah.
And I guess probably my first question is, why did you call it coffee, hip hop, and mental health?
I love when people ask me that question, right? And so it's really a simple story. Peace to my Chicago folks on here at Puerto Rico. What's up? And love to you all. Very simple. I was sitting in a coffee shop and Starbucks, like to be exact, right in the heart of downtown in the Millennium Park train station, doing a lunch break. I wasn't having a good day. I was overwhelmed by a relationship that I was in and some disappointments, getting ready to turn 40 and all the anxiety and all the stress and the pain of all the unresolved trauma. I believe it just all hit me at once in that moment. And I started to cry, Susie, uncontrollably, just couldn't stop
Uh,
crying. And being a performer for 20 years, I learned how to look, I perfected the art of showmanship and performing. And in this moment, I couldn't perform anymore. I couldn't hide. I just couldn't stop crying. And it was in that moment I decided to take another step of healing and take my butt to therapy. And so, because the mental and emotional breakdown happened in a coffee shop, hip hop has always been the bridge in my first form of therapy, being an artist. And then going to therapy, I was like, yo, we have to normalize this conversation. Why are we not talking about this therapy, this vehicle, this beautiful thing in the Black and brown community? And so, yeah, so everything that happened on that day in October 2018, I would never forget it. It was not only a breakdown, but it was a breakthrough. And that pushed me to create this beautiful vehicle.
yeah. And that's really, if you think in therapy in that way, it's a really excellent way of approaching it as well. And also you're creating positive language around it, which I think the whole idea of coffee, hip hop, and mental health is. I think I was talking to one of your team members. I don't know if Sandra.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
yes, yes.
and she sent me a great long list of kind of things that you guys have been doing the last while, and you actually are going to be doing something in the next week.
Yes. So we started the Poverty is Violent but Healthy Food is Love initiative, which evolved into the food drive. And since June, we have fed over, well, it's probably about 2,700 families now with the work that we did this past weekend. But I'm excited about this one. We're turning an area called Boxville, which is in the heart of the south side of Chicago. We are turning this into a 2-day free farmers market where we're going to give 2,500 families with a week's worth of groceries. And I'm super excited because look, we're not just feeding the needy, we're feeding the eager, right? When you think about food insecurity, it's not that you're poor. You just don't have to ask finances to allocate towards the consistency of groceries, right? That's one side of it. And the poverty rate in Chicago is 20.6%. And so since everything has been exasperated since the days of COVID, you're talking about 1.8 million people struggling, whether you're poor or you're dealing with food security. And so, yes, to give them a free farmers market so they can come to somewhere vibrant and beautiful. We beautify the land, we lay new mold.
Oh no.
It's going to be amazing. And I'm
I think
super
you
excited.
broke up a little bit.
Look, we said, how do we serve our city well? And so we linked up with a bunch of people, not just us, right? You know, we built so many community partnerships with AT&T, with the Obama Foundation, right? With Sip and Savor Coffee Shop, Sip of Hope, Hope for the Day, Boxville, Urban Juncture, right? And the list goes on. Even the FBI in Chicago, right? Look, I was a little suspect. I'm like, wait, the FBI wants to help. I don't know, right? But they dropped off dry goods, and I was okay with that. So yeah, and then look, people from all over the country, Susie, has been literally, we received $3. I would never forget this. Somebody from Honolulu sent $3. $3. So people all over the world, all over Chicago, have been giving to the People's Food Drive, whether it be financially, buying merchandise, right? Sending us advice and wisdom, and then coming and showing up and serving from all over. So we believe that we have been uniting all of Chicago, Black, white, Hispanic, the list goes on. We all coming together in such a beautiful time like this. So I'm excited about next weekend.
So I watched, like there is so much to talk about, and then someone just asked this question, which was exactly what I was about to ask. How is coffee integrated with the organization? So obviously, you know, I think about Akaya, we're all about coffee. A lot of our followers are all about coffee. It's a good quarantine thing to be into too. So
Yeah.
how have you integrated coffee into coffee, hip hop, and mental health?
Well, so for me, like the reason why coffee is super important, how we continue to integrate, like to insert it into what we do, is when you think about coffee, you think about conversation, right? So when someone meets with you, let's say, let's go have a cup of coffee, and so that's the beautiful thing about having that started conversation, getting people to sit down with you to be comfortable, right? And then coffee is also relaxing. It's a mood booster, right? And so we like to use coffee in that way, from a taste standpoint, from relaxation, but also a way to open up dialogue. And so that's the important thing about coffee, because when we have these beautiful conversations, we always have these open coffee bars or these coffee stations, right? So people can sort of get acclimated into the space to relax, because we're about to have a very uncomfortable conversation about trauma, triggers, and mental health. And so coffee is a mood booster, and it's a way for people to relax and just vibe into space, you know, without feeling like a high level of anxiety.
Yeah, and obviously it's like you creating a safe space as well, which is something like you're creating a safe space with the organization as well.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing about coffee, right? Or the different coloring stations, and then the music, all these different things happening before we have the conversation. It settles people's soul. It settles like people's mind and their spirit, right? Because we don't know what people come in with. But the beautiful thing about this, when you have people come to these events and they know we're talking about mental health, they don't know the specifics, but it's a very intentional thing for people to actually show up to an event to talk about the hard stuff. So you know, it's nothing passive about that decision. It's an intentional decision to show up to talk about your mess, to be your most vulnerable self, right? So the best that we can do is give them a free cup of coffee, multiple cups, right?
Yeah.
Something fun and sweet, and some games and all these different things to sort of just kind of like guide them through this whole experience.
Nice. No, it's such an important thing, especially right now with coronavirus and lockdown and a lot of uncertainty that especially like the US is going through right now, and everyone in Chicago from coast to coast, this kind of thing of you don't know what's going to be happening tomorrow or what's going to be happening in 2 weeks. So it's really creating a safe, positive space, I think, for a lot of people. So I went through some of your stuff as well. And so it's called the People's Farmers Market.
Yeah, so it's, it's the People's Food Drive, which is our initiative, and yes, I love calling it the People's Farmers Market because it is the people that help put this thing together, right? So when someone in New York or New Jersey or LA or even Canada that send money to us, or of course our people here in Chicago, when the federal government or the state or the city officials are too busy, right? It is the people that have to come together to build these initiatives. So that's the beautiful thing about the People's Food Drive, being able to come together so we can take care of each other. And that's what the People's Food Drive is all about. But the farmers market, I wanted to do that since June. How do we create something very beautiful and free, without having to charge the people, right? And so the fact that we all came together and all these community partners, and it's been amazing. And now we have 2,500 boxes that are actually coming from Tulsa, Oklahoma, because we started working with 180 Relief and Convoy of Hope, which is an international hub where they help people all over the country and all over the world, just making sure people have essentials like food. And it's food. At the end of the day, the least we can do is give people food. That is the least we can do. If someone's hungry, give them food. And so it is beautiful. We did a lot of work, for 400 and some odd days. We did a bunch of conversations, right, that carried and that spilled over to the days of COVID. And we started to really give and do a lot of outreach. So to now, after raising $54,000, and now people are saying, hey, give you the resources so we don't have to constantly ask for more money and then take that money to the grocery stores and the different vendors. Now people are just giving us food. And that's because of the work. We proved that if you donate to us, we're going to manage the money very well and we're going to help our community. So I continue to tell people to empower coffee, hip hop, and mental health because we'll do the dirty work. And so that's what the People's Food Market is about, right? Being able to help people and meet them at their basic needs, because we know that at the crux of this, food insecurity, no food, living in the food desert is poor mental health, right?
Yeah.
Even begin to normalize the mental health conversation without first giving people a hand up, a leg up, right? Give people food, give people jobs, give people the resources that they need, clothe people. You got to beautify people from the inside out, Susie, sorry. And that's hard.
So when you first started it, I know you said that you had pretty much an emotional awakening in a way.
Yes.
You could say that. And you started going to therapy, and the idea was that you wanted to bring what you'd learned in therapy to the community. How did you first set out to do that? What were your goals?
So the first thing was, look, as an artist, I said, I know a lot of people in the city. I have a lot of resources, right? And so I knew that it wasn't going to be hard, to get a stage or to find a space to create this safe space for the city, right? But I just didn't know how to translate what was happening in therapy and still sort of translate that on stage. So when I was trying to pitch this to the music venues, they were kind, but they were like, I don't know what this is, but because and you usually do good work, we'll give you the opportunity. And so the very first conversation happened on July 7, 2019. And a buddy of mine who I used to work with by the name of Ross Stevens, we sat for months pitching on our lunch break at the job, trying to figure out what this would look and sound like. And he became the very first moderator for this. And we had this event, and I had a therapist on stage, myself and him. And we had about 20 people show up. And right away, I felt like I failed because as an artist, it's all about ticket sales and numbers. And when you don't have ticket sales and numbers and people coming in, you feel like you didn't do a good job. And I had to change that right away because this was different. If you had one person show up to have this conversation, you won. It's a success because we're trying to normalize therapy at every level. And so those 20 that first event, they were engaged. They were answering questions. They were crying. They were being super vulnerable. And it took me a minute to process that. And I said, whoa, okay, this is group therapy. This is what this is. And so we said, okay, let me go back to the drawing board. And I started writing up the business plan. And I said, look, we're going to normalize therapy throughout the city of Chicago. To start locally and then to focus out, more of a global initiative, right? But to really start in our home first, go throughout the country. But this is how we do it. We just mobilize people to start many conversations in our community. And then we host them at a level where you have 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 people and so forth and so on. Let's create this very interactive, safe space for people to not only listen to the panelists, the different therapists, the personalities, the artists, but to also give them an opportunity to chime in, because most people don't have the space to talk about their feelings without bias, judgment, or even consequence, right? And so we wanted to create those type of conversations so people can essentially just have group therapy. And that's what sort of sparked it, right? And look, when I tell you these conversations have been off the chain, Susie, yo, it's crazy hot watching strong Black men who don't talk about their stuff send me a message in my inbox saying, yo, help me deal with me. Can you help me find a therapist? Yo, brother, I had one brother reach out to me and said, I need you to help me find a therapist so I can stop hurting the people that I love the most. You know how much?
Yeah,
Yo,
it's just so wild.
it's,
What did you, was that the most surprising aspect for you, for people to come out just so?
for Black men to be vulnerable like that. I wanted that. I didn't think it was going to happen so quickly. But we know what happens when you tell your story, you give people permission to tell their story, especially if you're being your most vulnerable self. I knew, even going through this healing and very messy process, which is the healing process in general, right? I knew I had to leverage my mess, my own pain, to give other people permission to share theirs. And that's hard, but I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world. I'm still struggling with my own trauma. I'm still struggling with what it means to be a parentless child, now an adult, wanting to be a father and a husband. But I wouldn't change it in the world that God put me in a position to take my beautiful, messy, messy mess of a story, right? To leverage it to help people become exceptional. Because God allowed me to be exceptional when I could have been in just another statistic. Crazy, isn't that beautiful? Right?
It's beautiful. I think it's excellent. I think it's, and especially right now, like the organization's now a year old, but I don't think it's going to be going anywhere for a very long time. Which leads me sort of to my next question. Yeah, I think the next question was like, would you? So it's obviously it's taken real hold in Chicago, and you've let it grow, and now you've really reached out to a lot of families and helped them with food and mental health and such like that, individuals and groups. Would you ever see to duplicate it in other cities? Would you ever try and bring it across the states, across the world?
Of course. Look, my job is to normalize therapy, both local and globally, right? Got to start at home first. It's already starting. So look, we have been working on mobilizing people who are in colleges, right? So you can mobilize them to help normalize therapy at the college level. And then later today, I'm working on a youth engagement.
Oh, did we lose him? I think someone was trying to call.
Bringing the youth in, right? Bringing the 14 and the 16-year-olds so they can normalize therapy at the high school level, right? Is even
your alarm going
about
off?
seniors. Yeah, nah, it's actually someone trying to. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so yes, like the goal is to go into various channels, right? First and foremost, like to make sure that we're working with the teams, the middle age, and the seniors, because there are 60-year-old men and women who have never found their true self because of the trauma, right? And so we have to normalize therapy at every age level. Then when you think about different cities and different states, certain states are dealing with certain traumas that happen in that region, right? And so, and then when you think about overseas, I think the whole world is struggling with some form of PTSD. Right?
Oh yeah.
So, long answer to a short question: yes, yes, and yes. So we already started talking with people in San Diego, various parts like throughout Los Angeles, New York, right, New Jersey, and then a few other spaces like Atlanta and then Houston. But I want to make sure, like any system, you want to make sure that we can duplicate the same system, the same bylaws within this organization, so we're not just, I don't want to serve people at a low level. Like, we have to serve people at a high level, because when you're talking about open people up to to mental health issues, when you open up that question, you got to be ready to serve them. You got to be ready to meet their needs. So I don't want to just start something just because it's cool. Oh, we're in New York and it's a chapter in New York, but we're not meeting the needs of the people. And so the goal is to continue to perfect the system here and then duplicate it, right, in other parts. But I'm going to be very much on top of that, going to these other cities and making sure that, hey, look, if I mobilize you, you're going to have to really meet the needs of the people, or else. Because this is no game. Like, this pandemic is very, very much a stressful and a real thing, but mental health is a human crisis. And it's been a human crisis for such a long time, right? And so
Yeah.
we need to find ways to combat mental health, mental illnesses, right? The stigma that's associated with the medication, the stigma associated with what it means to go sit down with a therapist in Black and brown communities. But what about the resources? Because not only are people living in food deserts, Susie, they're living in medical deserts. They don't have insurance. They don't have doctors. People are working 40, 50 hours a week and don't have health insurance. That is a problem. It is a problem. And you're robbing the people of living in good human conditions. So don't look at it as black and white. Remove that and stop serving out of guilt, because guilt expires. I'm telling people to look at it from this standpoint. It is inhumane for people to not have food and the things they need to live a healthy human life. It is inhumane. And so we have to change the way we deal with each other, right? So yes, we're here to stay for a very long time, but we have to perfect the system, because we just can't just be doing anything at a low level, because America has been treating Black and brown communities very, very low resources, right? Low support across the board. So I'm not going to create something that's going to treat people in a way that it doesn't serve them well.
Yeah. Like it's when I was researching, I think what struck me about everything was that the whole point of it was that it was meant to be, everything that coffee, hip hop, and mental health was doing was creating a sustainable circle of help, I guess. So it's doing with the cafe, everything. The whole idea is that it's not one-off events. It's events that are building and creating more, and creating all focused on the community, but creating almost a protection, I guess, is what it came across as. And sort of it leads actually to the next question again. So many questions for you. But you said in you said in one of the videos you put up a quote towards the end, which the quote was, "All roads lead to suicide prevention."
Yes.
Can you, I guess, you've already sort of touched upon it most definitely, but can you sort of explain what that means?
Yeah, so that video you were referring to was a campaign I did with the Obama Foundation. The reality is, people are killing themselves. They're either imploding, which is an inward thing, or exploding. So when you look at the mass shootings, the murder-suicide situations, or when you look at young people as young as 10 years old, killing themselves. Like, what happens to a child, an innocent baby that says, I'm going to end my life? Excuse my language, but that's a fucking problem. It's a problem, and it hurts to the core. When you have children as young as even 7, 8, 9, even having those thoughts, right? And so when I speak about suicide prevention, how do we prevent people even getting to that as the last resort? Which is why we have to constantly create safe spaces for people to talk about their stuff. It is nothing wrong with being angry. It's nothing wrong with being a person full of rage. People have to have the space to cry, to scream, to have that safe space to go through all the emotions, to even have that moment of all that anxiety. They have to have that space, because if they don't, they will either implode, which is self-destruction, right? Or explode, which everybody's at risk at that point. And so the goal is to continue to create these vehicles, these tools. We call ourselves a traveling support group. And so the goal before COVID existed was to travel through all of Chicago, all throughout the country, and even across the pond, to say, hey, we are going to create this space for you to come in, to open up, to scream, to like bash stuff on the wall, do whatever you can. You got to let out the pain and give people that room. Give people the room to cry, to yell, to curse. It's a stigma associated with human emotions. There is nothing weak about crying. It's nothing weak about being vulnerable. And when you don't give people that opportunity, it's unfair to the human lifestyle. It is unfair to the human experience to only be able to show the good sides of you. So when it comes to suicide prevention, yes, all road leads to that, because we have to prevent people to thinking that death and killing themselves is the last resort, because people are beautiful, they are necessary, they are valuable, and they are needed. And we can't keep losing our children, our men, our women. It doesn't matter what color you are. We can't afford to continue to lose another human to suicide.
Agreed. Absolutely. I don't think anyone could disagree here. Yeah, it's just such a solid statement is all I will say. And
Thank
for
you.
you, like, you said that you go to therapy. It's one of the best things you've ever done. But for anyone who is watching, would be, we obviously talk about the long-term thing. We talk about creating conversations, creating space, I guess, for it. Space that should already be there. You want to bring back that space that we've kind of, I guess, lost, I would say. What would you say are 3 things that you do, or what people should do maybe every day or every week to take care of their mental health and the mental health? I would just say mental health around themselves.
Oh man, do something that you love. Do something that gives you life. If spending time coloring, watching movies, playing sports, working out, if you know that those things give you life, give you a mood boost, and make you feel good on the inside, continue to do that. Continue to do any and everything that makes you feel good, right? Because we're doing too much and we're focusing on all the things that give us anxiety. But people have to give themselves permission to take care of themselves, to treat themselves well. Don't just cook. You know what? I remember there was a time that when people would come over, that I would cook everybody a really, really nice meal. The plates and the table would be decked out really, really nice, because I love to cook, right? That was one of the things I really love to do. But I would notice, though, when I would cook for myself, I would treat myself the least. I wouldn't put a lot of heart into cooking my own food. I wouldn't dress the table really well. I would actually cook for myself very poor. And I wouldn't even eat the best. But again, when other people would come over, I would give them the best. I would shop for them. I would lay it all out nice and pretty and beautiful, right? I would treat and serve them really well. But by myself, I didn't treat myself very well, because A, I didn't love myself. B, I didn't know how to love myself. And C, I didn't even know what love really meant, right? And so as I began to heal and to grow, I started to take care of myself a little better. I started to enjoy the things that I like. I gave myself permission, like, to love on Christopher, right? And so I would tell people, Susie, all the time, that to find that space for yourself, reconnect with yourself. And that's what therapy did for me. Therapy reconnected me to my better self, because when you're dealing with life and anxiety and the pressures and the pain, you get disconnected from who you really are, right? And you yourself. And so I would encourage people to find that time and that space to connect with themselves, date themselves. Don't treat your
Yeah.
girlfriend or your significant other in general better than you treat yourself. That's not fair. Don't lay the red carpet out for everybody else, and don't do the same for you.
Yeah. So this is actually so funny because my boss just mentioned me this question. So I guess we're talking in terms of things you can do daily, like kind of things like daily affirmations or treating yourself like you would treat other people, kind of thing. But say if someone didn't have access to formal therapy, didn't have the money, or didn't no, this is like another question. Like didn't have the access to formal therapy, or just didn't have the cash, which a lot of people don't, because unfortunately it's an expensive, very unfortunately it's an expensive route. But what would you recommend for those people? What would be your steps?
Positive affirmations. That's like number one. Start, repeat and speak the opposite things, right? So if you're thinking negative things, so you have to like repeat the good things to yourself over and over again. And there's something powerful about the spoken word. And so I believe in writing the vision. I believe in like writing what I want, creating a script of what I want, even though it's not in the present, because I feel like you create the better life that you want. And sometimes like you have to see the vision, see a better version of you, write the better version of you, right? So if someone can replay over and over again, listen to positive things, right? Listen to motivational speakers, right? Find motivational books that you can read, but fill yourself with as much positive messages as possible. Number one, because that's really powerful, because everything we do, we think and we speak everything we do, good, bad, or indifferent, right? And so step two is to find someone that you love and you know that you can trust, that will hold your stuff. Find someone that you can talk to, because you may have that friend, that relative, right? That person in your corner that you know that you can trust. Find them and ask them, do you have enough capacity to listen to my stuff? Because everyone needs those venting places. Even if that person doesn't say anything back, sometimes we just need to get it out.
Yeah.
And know that you have somebody in your life that are not holding a lot of heavy stuff on their own, right? And they got the heart for you, like to hear your stuff. That's, man, everyone need that space to talk. So positive affirmations, find messages like that you can like really feed yourself good energy, good thoughts, so you can start meditating on all these beautiful things. It doesn't matter if it doesn't exist. You can will these things to happen. I know personally, I will good to me because I always tell myself good stuff is going to happen. It has to. Even in self-doubt, I have to speak above that. And then two, again, find somebody to have those conversations with. Because you may not afford a therapist, right? But you have friends and you have family, people that really, really love you and really, really, really care for you. And then three, doing stuff that you love. I'm going to say that over and over again. Find stuff that you love. Find something that fills you, that make you feel really, really good. And then giving to other people, oh man, giving. When you give to other people, that gives you life. And it's almost like this invisible healing thing that happens when you give to people. It is the most amazing feeling. When I'm tired and exhausted from all the work I'm doing, to get up to know that I'm going to feed people tomorrow, it gives me life, Susie. It gives me life. So we should definitely focus on being more givers. Giving is the new sport. Giving is the new everything, because we can't do all the normal stuff, right? But the one thing we can do every day in the midst of COVID is give.
So say if someone, because I feel like you probably have these conversations every day, probably from people messaging you online and all these kind of stuff. And if someone came to you and they said they were ready to go to a therapist, how would you tell them what would be the first step other than
If
contacting you?
they were ready,
Yeah.
I would say be patient with yourself. Therapy is a relationship, so be patient with the therapist. That's the best advice. Be patient. Oh, and please remove the unrealistic expectations that we sort of put into relationships in general. You have to remove unrealistic expectations. No one's going to change their life drastically overnight. It's not going to happen. I mean, for me, I spent 25 years grieving, dealing with guilt and shame. And so the first thing I have to do is be patient with the therapist, be patient with myself, and know that this is not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be tough, Susie. And so, yeah, I always share that. Therapy is a relationship. Be patient. You have to groom what this could be for you. You have to slowly groom this, because you're about to find somebody for the first time in your life. They're going to get all of you. My therapist has gotten everything that I have never gave to anybody I related with. Everything. And that scared me. But the thing that helped me was it was building Christopher. It was the building blocks that I needed, like, to get to a better Christopher. I tell all my friends and family and the special person in my life, I tell all the time that they're all getting a better version of Christopher.
Yeah.
I wish I had known these things 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm not happy about a lot of the mistakes I made growing up, but I wasn't raised right. I didn't have a mom. I didn't have a dad. And those are not excuses. Those are facts, right? When people are not properly nurtured and you grow up very hurt people hurt people. And so therapy changed my life. It taught me a lot about boundaries, about self-respect, about character, more integrity, and then self-love.
Yeah. Which I think a lot of people struggle with. Like,
yeah.
Like we know everyone who struggles with it. And Jen just made a good point there. Some therapists aren't the right fit for you. As you said, it's a relationship.
Yes.
You're not going to get the best relationships with everyone. And I think that's a big thing, is that not all therapists fit everyone, and not everyone fits all therapists, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I tell people, therapy is a relationship. And so you have to, like, weed out. And that's okay. Therapists understand that. They're not taking it personal. You have to have the good fit, right? And so I tell people, they're reaching out to us, and we're like 87 people. We just looked at the queue. Wow. It's like people who are waiting, like, for us to get them resources, because we like to take our time with that, because we don't want to just send you like anything, right? And so when they send us messages saying, I prefer a woman, I prefer a male, I prefer a Spanish speaking, I prefer a black, we really allow them to break it down by gender, by race, language, right? Because everyone knows what they want to a certain extent. And so we'd rather start it off that way. But once they get into that space and they're really focused, they tend to figure out, I probably didn't want that because I didn't need that, right?
Yeah.
So the goal is to educate people, but also tell them, hey, look, relax, breathe a bit, take your time. This isn't impersonal. It's a personal thing, but the therapist won't take it personal if you tell them, look, lady or sir, you're not right? You have the power because they work for you, right? This is a partnership. And so we have to be very bold about this. Like, our minds is the most important and the most valuable piece of real estate we'll ever own. It's bigger than anything else. And we have to really work on this. Working on this, Susie, changed my life. I never thought I'd be married. I never thought I'd have children. I thought I was going to die before the age of 40. But when I started doing this work, it changed my whole perspective. I see Christopher different.
Yeah.
Or I used to spend like a whole life of lying because I was ashamed. I was super insecure, and I grew up lying about stuff that I didn't want people to know about Chris. But once I started to love Christopher, I said, I'm not going to omit or hide anything. I am who I am. I'm a beautiful mess. That's how I define myself. I am a beautiful mess. And God allowed me to be that for whatever reason. So the beautiful mess can turn into a beautiful message so I can help people also become beautiful messages. Right? Those are
So
bars.
yeah.
Those bars.
So you were saying that obviously the one of the biggest goals of coffee, hip hop, and mental health is for you is realigning the stigmatism, or like changing the stigmatism around mental health and conversations of mental health.
Yes.
And you said that people have obviously reached out to you in private, which shows that there still is, it's an excellent thing, but there is still a stigmatism around it. Have you found any surprising pushback, or have you noticed, has it been a linear uphill battle, or has it kind of been up and down with the community?
No, it's been look, it's been surprisingly amazing, actually. Um, so this made me think about something. So my sister was here yesterday, and I hadn't seen my sister in a while. Obviously, you know, the pandemic. You know, we haven't really seen each other, and she lives in Wisconsin, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which had a lot of this stuff that happened, right? And
Yeah.
and we was talking yesterday, and I love my sister, and my sister said she also started therapy. And I was really proud of that because my older sister's seen so much. She's been through so much. She's the oldest, obviously, and we come from a very, very tough upbringing. And my sister saw everything. And so it was beautiful to hear my sister say that she started going to therapy, and it's amazing. It's actually, I mean, actually in that moment, like I heard her, but I think now, because I'm processing it, like I tend to process things a little slow because I like to take it in. It's actually a very beautiful thing that my sister started going to therapy. And I need to praise her more for that because she has done a lot. She has went through a lot. I remember seeing my sister at 15. And you know how you're young, like you just don't even know what is it going to be like for your people. You don't even understand. You don't have the words or the emotional intelligence to really frame what's happening. So to see my sister at 15, 16 years old, pushing a stroller, a child with a child, to a beautiful, incredible, powerful Black woman, highly educated, one step under being a doctor. She can literally open up her own clinic if she wants to. My sister is brilliant, and she came from the waist. We came from a very bad place. And even all the stuff that she achieved, for her to even have the emotional intelligence or to the internal clock to say, I still need more help, that was powerful to me. And so when I see like my family, I see like the community, I see my fellow brothers putting aside the shame and the embarrassment that come with thinking you need help, knowing you need help, but too prideful and too ashamed to reach out. It changes the culture. It changes how we look at therapy. It changes how we look at our communities. And I believe when men heal, first and foremost, when Black men heal, our communities heal.
Yeah.
So I'm not excluding women. I'm just saying that our brothers, we really needed therapy. Because it's tough being a Black man. It's tough being a Black person in general. But a Black man, oh, it's tough. And so just saying like the community at large, Black, white, Hispanic, again, we normalizing this therapy conversation throughout the entire world, all over Chicago. But it means a lot to me, Susie, to see people that look like me feel comfortable talking about their stuff, because there's nowhere in America that we have the right to thrive from an emotional standpoint without being judged, ridiculed, having bias thrown against us, and even locked up.
Yeah.
Because when we rage, oh, look at the scary black man and woman. No, I'm angry because you've been gaslighting me forever. You've been gaslighting my community forever, right? And so it means a lot. And we are changing culture. We're changing the black and brown community. And so there's a Hispanic or Latino version of this. We're building that community also. And so we're going into like the areas where there's highly populated white children and like white adults who have dealt with their own trauma. Immigrants who have been dealing with their own trauma of what it means to leave a country to come to America. Again, I believe the whole world is dealing with some form of PTSD or depression, anxiety, and COVID, the election is exasperating everything.
Yeah, it's like it's this kind of thing I feel at the moment is that everyone is so stressed out right now, but getting used to it to a point, and then more stress is added on, and not realizing how stressed they are.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
How's it going in Germany, though? If I can ask you a question, how is the emotional climate in Germany in the midst of all of this?
To use a mental health phrase, it's a bit bipolar at the moment. Everyone can't decide. Like, there's a lot of confusion over stuff because you have the US and it's one big nation, and then we have Europe, which is going through little bits and pieces, and we can't really decide what. Everyone is going a different way to try and deal with stuff. So it's a struggle. We don't know where we'll be in 2 weeks. We don't know where we'll be tomorrow. It's this kind of fascinating thing right now where I'm talking to you, who is thousands of miles away from me, and I have people who are watching us who are thousands of miles away from us, yet we all have this group experience. We have a global experience going on right now. And in a way that, like, almost this conversation is helping those people who are watching this now and asking the ideas of mental health is a human experience, as you said. And it's this thing of like, how do we help? How do we talk about it and all these things? So I feel like you were actually recommended, my boss thought you would be a great fit for our conversations. And it's exactly what we want to do with the Akaya Live Instagram, is where we talk to people and have them talk about their experiences so they can share and relate. And I think you've most definitely done that. And for you, like kind of this question I want to ask at the end, where do you see yourself and the organization in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years?
Susie put me on the spot. Well, first and foremost, thank you, Acacia Coffee, Susie, and your entire team for giving Coffee Hip Hop and Mental Health this platform to share our vision, our goals, and our dreams to increase the awareness of mental health and suicide prevention, and just for giving me an opportunity. I don't take this lightly. This is very, very beautiful, and you're right. It is so dope to have this group experience. I had no idea you were in Germany, so it's cool to All right, so thank you, and I want to say thank you. But yeah, you know what? I want to be able to step out on stage, right? And the whole place is just excited. Coliseums, right, are being excited because I'm about to ask this one question that make people go crazy in a beautiful way. Are you ready to celebrate emotional and mental freedom? The goal is to do a national and a global tour, normalizing therapy throughout the masses, showing up with therapists, meeting people need, giving people therapy resources, making sure that people can get this stuff done for free, going into different neighborhoods across the country. Like what we're doing now, we're feeding people. Not only just feeding people with food, right? Like the next level is showing up and saying, okay, there's therapists who are here for you. Hey, if you're comfortable, let's have it. The goal is to try, and this is the best way I can answer this. The goal is to get to a point where we're strong enough where we can meet the needs of the people immediately. If people need shelter, get them off the streets, right? If people need clothing, give them clothing. I'm talking about really reimagining what the human experience is about. And when I say serving people at the highest level, I'm talking about really coming in and changing what the community looks like. Let's beautify the people inside and out, right? And so that's what I really want us to do. And so in 1 year's time, like to really create more national chapters where we are in different places, like we talked about New York and LA and all those major metropolitan areas, right? But also going into places where suicide is really high, in those rural places. The places that people know about, right? Some of those small towns where people is less opportunity, less resources, right? And just really making sure that we're popping up in every crack and crevice of the world. And then just being able to open up, which is our 5th-year plan, is to open up a huge facility where you can come in and not only buy like the cool stuff like coffee and things of that nature, right? And like merchandise, but to be able to come into a safe space and relax. And there's mental health aid, right? We're teaching people how to detect mental health issues, right? We're giving people a clinic. We're giving them a free therapy space. And then they can come for live entertainment. Artists can come and create music because there's a thing called art therapy, music therapy, right? And so creating a beautiful space where we can have one part for business and one part for community so we can serve at the highest level. So I hope that makes sense. To really dig in to help people have a better human experience. If you can think about that, people need clean air, they need clean water. All of these things are the reason why we're having a horrible mental health experience, because we don't have food, clothing, jobs. So this thing has become bigger than what I have ever imagined once I start to understand the man's laws, right? The man's laws, right? What like people really need, like the substance, autonomy, character, community, right? People need those things in order to live a life, right? And so because of that, we have to take this thing to another level. We have to meet the needs of the people, both local and globally. The goal is to travel throughout the world, being a sustainable means of a support system.
Nice. Thank you so much, Christopher, for joining us. I think we organized this pretty quick, and I think, yes. And I will say to anyone who is watching, you can go click on Christopher and Coffee Hip Hop and Mental Health's profile. They have a website. They have so many social avenues to find them through. We'll be putting this up on our Instagram TV thing afterwards as well. Hopefully to YouTube. We'll see what goes on. But I really want to thank you again for taking some time out of your day and joining us. I think it was a really invigorating interview, and I think it will hopefully, even for the people watching, normalize therapy and speaking about mental health for them as well.
Yes, no, I thank you, Susie. And look, I want to encourage you too. So peace and love to you. May you have a beautiful and joyous day. If there's anything on the inside of you that doesn't feel good and you feel uneasy, I speak life to that. I speak life. You are a beautiful, vibrant person. You have everything that you need. You are full of joy. You're full of hope. You are the coolest, most awesome ever. And I'm sending love from Chicago all the way to Germany. And I wish the best for you and your family. And I want you to tell your people at Acacia that I want to partner with Acacia moving forward so we can normalize. Think we can talk about that later?
Oh, they're watching. Don't worry.
Look, Acacia team, let's do this. Let's normalize therapy together. We need each other. Thank you so much. I love you all. This has been amazing. And so I'm here if you need anything, okay?
Thank you so much. All right.
You're
Have a great day, Christopher. And thank you everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you. Peace.